Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Small Town Underground. As you can see tonight, we're not doing a live. We're actually doing this recorded. We're going to be doing a lot more segments like this, especially since Facebook wants to remove our lives after 30 days. And we're going to be focusing on a lot more issues as we get through this next month that are affecting other counties all over the place as we go into this next chapter of Georgia politics. So thank you for joining us tonight, watching the video. You can go to givesendgo.com/smalltownunderground if you'd like to donate to the show. All proceeds go to the show, go to the travel, all the things that we do as we move around the state. And so tonight I have a special guest with me, Mrs. Norine Cantor, and she is going to be joining us tonight so that we can introduce the audience to her. She is running for the second vice chair position of the Georgia GOP. And we want to welcome her in tonight. So good evening, Norine. How are you doing?
Good evening, Roy. I'm doing great.
Great.
How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I'm 90-0, and and we're burning
I
the
hear
candle
you.
at both ends. So,
I hear you.
thank you for reaching out. I'm glad we're doing this interview. I recently met you at the MAGA Georgia breakfast. Now, I'd seen you. We've been
Yep.
communicating a little bit back and forth on Facebook. And so I got to
Yep.
meet you in person. I got to hear you. I've been to a couple of events where you've been at. And so I'm excited to have you on the show tonight. So I want you to introduce yourself and just tell everybody some background. Give it, who are you? Where'd you come from? What do you kind of do? Okay.
Okay. My name is Norine Cantor. I am a candidate for the second vice chairman of the Georgia GOP. Um, I have been involved in politics for a very long time. I've worked on numerous candidates in all different aspects, from fundraising to grassroots. So I've been involved for a long time. I've been involved in groups. I've been leaders of groups, like the Linear Republican Assembly, the South Hall Republican Club, and other clubs. So I've had a lot of political experience. I am currently going to school to get my bachelor's in political science,
Wow.
which is fun and exciting, except I do not like writing papers. But since it's a subject I love, the papers are very fun,
Well,
and
cool.
I am enjoying it immensely.
Wow. So I'm sure you have probably seen the political landscape change quite a bit over all the years you've been working, especially with this sort of MAGA movement.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. The first time um, Trump came to Georgia and he had a big rally was to make sure Kemp won governor.
Mm-hmm.
And now our governor has turned his back on Trump. That's really bad. But that was very exciting being in part of that rally. And then we had one up in Commerce, and I was a part of getting that together with Ron Hooper and his team. So that was really exciting, being on the ground floor and helping them set up a rally.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, things have really changed. But before Trump, it was kind of, you know, people just they were caring about stuff, but Trump brought in such a new wave, the mega, and it's rallied so many millions of people to realize that we really need a strong person in the White House. And people can get together and all be excited about Trump. And it's just an amazing thing to watch as he came down the escalator, as he ran for president, and everybody goes, "Nah, he's not going to win." But I always had hope in him. I knew he would win. He's
Yep.
just a fantastic, fantastic business person.
You know, you're 100% right. I like to tell the story a lot. I have never seen one full episode of The Apprentice, all right? Everybody knows who Donald Trump is, but
Yeah.
never really followed Donald Trump. I mean, of course, we see the old CNN snippets of him, but the minute he came up or came down the escalator, I said, that's going to be the next president right there.
Yeah.
And it was because of his message. He was completely outside of the system that we know. And
Hmm.
I'll never forget getting to the biggest argument with my father about Ted Cruz. And I love Ted Cruz, right? We all love Ted Cruz.
Yeah. He's a
But
guy.
he argued with me up and down. You got to be kidding me. Donald Trump is not going to be. I said, you wait and see. I mean, he will. And sure enough, and it really has.
Yeah.
And it's I believe it's brought an element to what I consider, and when I say this, I'm not saying the entire party, but the system is largely a uniparty system, right? And it's brought in the
Yeah.
element of people that don't come from lineages of money or family, that have integrity and messages. People, normal people that want to stand up and make a difference. And people have to be reminded that it wouldn't be that way if the Republican Party was doing the things that they were supposed to do in the first place, right? And so we realized
Absolutely.
we've got huge problems, right?
We got big problems.
So
Like
absolutely. So
Trump says, huge problems.
yeah, it's true. And gosh, we've lived through what the last 8 to 10 years. I mean, of course, it started a lot longer than that, but when we've really been able to
Yeah.
see, with our election issues, I mean, look at our last
Yeah.
session we had in Georgia. I mean, we're kind of in a dire straits here.
Yeah, we are. And I really can blame a lot on that on the Georgia GOP and their leadership. I mean, he says he won the touchdown, but did he really? We lost people from the House of Republicans down at the Capitol that were probably rhinos in the first place, but still. We lost people. We're going to lose that majority. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose 2026. And this state is going to have a Democrat for a governor.
Well, I mean, you can already see the Democrats, of course, ramping
Yeah.
up. And the thing I think that separates us the way I look at it, Noreen, is I come to the Republican Party, I read the principles, and my objective, my goal is to make things better, right? The big words,
Hmm.
accountability, transparency, that kind of thing. And when you enter into this system that doesn't necessarily want that, right? They're still playing by this set of rules that don't really include just the average person. And so we're seeing a huge shift here because people are waking up and realizing we can't continue to play this game like we do. Would you agree?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the establishment versus the grassroots.
right.
And the grassroots are not winning. The establishment is because money and power are the root of evil. And we have some really evil people that are in the establishment.
Well, obviously, and again, when you brought up Brian Kemp, it seems like we're going through this lame duck session of a governor who cares
Yeah.
very little about the people, very little about communities. I mean, they tout these kind of things, but you look at the legislation that's coming through, and it's like mind blowing. It's like this is our own party pushing this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't understand it.
No. I mean, for instance, Andrew Clyde is a ninth district congressman. He is a good congressman, very transparent, just a wonderful congressman. Why is Kemp putting somebody up against him? Why? Why is he primarying somebody who is so good? I
Right.
thought the Republicans didn't primary their own, from what I've heard, but I guess you can do it if
Right.
you have the money and it's Kemp.
Right.
So Andrew has to stay in his district and do everything. He can't go out and campaign because people get mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to spend more money. It's just Andrew should have never been primary. But this is what Kemp wants. Does he really want to help Republicans get in, or does he want to help Democrats get in? Does he want to make sure we lose the House in 2026? I don't think he's a true conservative Republican. I don't care what people think.
Well, I mean, I have to agree with you on that. Maybe at one time, but the landscape has changed so much, and when you take all that emotion out of what this really is and look at it,
Hmm.
from an outside, an objective point of view, you just realize that we've been pushing for the wrong things for so long. I see the state of Georgia turning into this sort of corporatocracy everywhere that you turn. The number one
Hmm.
state to do business is whatever. We're supposed to be an agriculture state. We're supposed to be a state that worships the Lord. We're supposed to be family, community, and I see our communities constantly getting wrecked all over the place, and it's like our priorities are way out of line with where we should be. Right? We've allowed Hollywood.
Absolutely.
They've allowed Hollywood to take over Atlanta.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
we're losing the culture war in this state. And you would think that more
Yeah,
Republicans would be on board with, putting these stopgap measures in place, protecting our Constitution, really, really passing legislation. I mean, like we still have a state income tax for crying out loud. why do we
why?
why do we have what
Why?
upwards of an $18 billion surplus, and we're still taking taxpayer money out of people's pockets when every other state around us
Mhm.
is eliminating this? Does not look like the golden age to me.
Not in Georgia. When I was running for House District 30 last year, um, I got no support from the Georgia GOP, which, I expected nothing. So, but I ran and I had to get a lit. I got a list from David Cross because the GOP just would not help. So we narrowed it down to our district, and I went and I canvassed. I enjoyed canvassing; it was so much fun, and I worked on his voting record. His voting record was 34, which means he votes with the Democrats.
Hmm.
So I woke a lot of people up because they never heard what a voting score was. They just recognize your name and will vote for you because 99% of incumbents win because people recognize their names. So I woke people up about voting scores. So I didn't win, but I think I did what I was supposed to do.
Right.
So it's just crazy how many rhinos we have. And I am on the it makes me so mad. But
Right.
um, I am a type of person that I won't take crap. I
Hmm.
will I will voice my opinion even if it's not nice. I will stand for something even if I have to stand alone. Like I did when I ran for House because I really had no help. Everybody said they would help, didn't help. So, but I ran campaigns before, so I knew what I was doing and I knew what I was getting into. But I was just 3 weeks out of the hospital after having major surgery, so it was
Mm.
a little rough.
Right.
But I needed to do that
Right.
to try to wake people up, and more people need to step up. We need more grassroots people that want to run or maybe even not want to run for office and get in there. We need to recruit them, we need to train them, we need to support them all we can, and we need to primary these so-called R's that are rhinos, because if we don't, we're going to have a bunch of rhinos down there that just vote with the Democrats and we'll never get anything done in Georgia. And as far as the state income tax, when I was running, I asked Colton, I says, Colton, how come we don't have the state income tax gone? He says, well, at the rate they're doing, it's going to take us 50 years to get the state income tax gone. I says, why is that? Because they're doing it in so little bits and
Hmm.
pieces. And I says, that's totally ridiculous.
It is.
So, I mean, it's crazy why we don't take care of our people in this state
Well,
and get rid of the stupid income tax.
Well, speaking about that, so that bill that he's talking about, that literally would cut off like point whatever percent of income tax, and
Yeah.
it would literally end up taking 50 years. But they tout
Yeah.
this kind of bill passage as a major victory. On a lot of my research
Yeah.
that I go through, when I go back through 10 to 12 years of YouTube videos of past senators and stuff, and the after chamber interviews, and they're just so giddy about their tax cuts that they did 10 or 12 years ago. And it's like you start adding that up in your head, and it's like we're getting kind of screwed here. Like there is really no tax cut. Like we just need to eliminate it completely because this is a game that's being
Exactly.
played over and over again.
Exactly.
So I want to ask you. You're running for second vice chair. So give me your thoughts on the GOP. Tell me how you plan if you should win. What kind of changes would you make? How do you view where we're at right now with the GOP?
Well, right now I view that our chairman doesn't have a lick of integrity, no transparency, and doesn't really care about the grassroots. I mean, all this stuff that's coming about his spending, oh my gosh. If that would have been me in a corporate situation, I'd already be arrested. What's wrong with these people? Why don't we have an investigation on Josh and all this spending? It's ridiculous. We need full transparency. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
there's
what,
certainly there doesn't seem to be
go
a lot
ahead.
of checks and balances. When you're looking at these receipts, when you're looking at these, you're asking questions that aren't getting answered. There is you realize there's no checks and balances there in reality, and no wonder that people seem not to trust what is going on right now.
Yeah, there's no trust. Nobody trusts what's happening at the Georgia GOP. Well, don't say anybody. Maybe the establishment still trusts what's going on, but the normal, common sense grassroots people, we see what's going on. It is horrible. And if Josh gets elected again and I get elected, there's going to be some headbutting because I'm not going to sit down and be quiet. But I know that he'll probably get rid of me faster than he got rid of Brian Pritchard. But because he can't have anybody that doesn't bow down and kiss his butt.
Right.
But I'm not that way. So I would hope that David Cross will win. Yes, I'm endorsing David Cross. So I'm going to take personal privilege and say David Cross has more integrity in one little finger than Josh has his whole body.
Wow.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people on the ground after viewing a lot of this stuff say that a lot of these positions don't really mean anything, they're just positions. Do you intend on changing that, or at least challenging that thought process? Like, do you think that you will be able to come into the GOP and actually be a part of it and work sort of, independently, but at the same pace and direction as everybody?
I would hope so. But again, it depends on the chairman.
Okay.
If David gets in, I know we'll work good together because we both want the grassroots involved a lot. Josh, he'll probably make me be a mushroom. You know what a mushroom is. So I'll probably be a mushroom and not be allowed to do anything. But hopefully, maybe I'll be able to reach out to the county chairs and help get grassroots people on the right track. I am working on a plan called Grassroots 26 that starts at the county level and goes all the way up to getting them elected. And then here's a big one: hold them accountable.
Right.
We're not supposed to hold our Republicans accountable once they get elected.
Well, I can certainly say, in my experience of activism, the Republicans, is a majority, been taken aback at how people like myself will go up and ask them questions like, they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" It's like, wait a minute here. We have to get on a certain page with each other where you understand what we are wanting. And the funny thing about grassroots to me is that I don't see a lot of people with their hands out looking for the next best thing or the quid pro quo. They're literally just wanting good legislation, get the bad legislation out. We want election integrity. We want all these things that will stop all of the controversy and all of the corruption and all of the questioning, right? And I think that's a big part of it, is when you have too many questions about the way things function or the way things are going, there's a problem there that needs to be addressed, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we got so many problems. It's just crazy down there.
Yeah.
And the grassroots, I don't know if they're the answer, but if you get people in that actually are America first, grassroots, Trump supporting candidates with integrity, you might have a chance.
Right.
Because there's no integrity down at that Capitol. I mean, what they did to Colton, it makes me so mad. What they did to Colton and left him out there. And Burt Jones being the head of the Senate really made me mad when he took all those people in and then he didn't come back and make sure Colton got in. He left him out there to fend for himself. That was wrong.
Yeah,
Burns, makes me mad.
Well, that's a hard pill to swallow, watching a guy that wants to be our future governor and leader of the state leave out one of his own senators out there to hang like that. It's not something that you can unsee. So
no,
I'll leave it at that.
It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. You never leave your people behind if you really care about them. And that made me so mad. And that made me go, I don't know about that. Him being governor, is he going to leave us behind and just move on with other people that, he really gets paid by? I don't know. Well, Burt Jones, I'm just not sure about him anymore.
Well, let's go back to Fonnie Willis, the RICO case, all of these huge missteps that are still in effect to this day. And you get somebody like a senator that's wanting to call a special session, challenge the status quo, that somebody who is looking at things on a constitutional level. And you look at the way that he's been treated. He's been kicked out of just about everything that you can be a part of by his own people. and his bills never make it to the finish line. And we're talking about a handful of people who are willing to stand up against this machine and challenge them. When we're having 400 plus bills go through in about a 40-day span, there are problems, serious problems that we're having to face here. I don't understand how this is just acceptable, to be honest with you.
Because we've been indoctrinated to accept it. People don't question their elected officials because that's the way the Georgia GOP does. We don't hold them accountable, but we need to. Because if we don't, look what we're going to have. I mean, my representative is horrible. He's a yes man. I mean, he is a yes man. Because when I was running, I checked all his votes and they were all yes.
Wow.
So we got to get people that actually, here's a concept, common sense, and think,
right,
and care about we the people. I mean, this is ridiculous what's going on. And Colton tried to get a lot of stuff passed, and they just threw him to the wayside. I mean, when Ralston was in, if you messed up with Ralston, he took away everything. Remember, I don't know if you know Matt Gertler or not, but you know what he did to Matt Gertler, right?
Yes.
He ran a Democrat as a Republican against him to make sure he didn't win his seat.
That's right.
So that is how corrupt the Georgia GOP is down at the Capitol. Sure. You don't fall in line, you get squat.
And we've seen it firsthand.
We have. And the Freedom Caucus, we need to put more members in. We've got some really good ones in, but we have just a few. But we need a lot more in, and that's where the grassroots come in.
I agree.
If they come in and they're vetted and they are as strong as Charlize and Colton, and I can't remember the other names, but maybe they could help, mentor them and help them grow into what they need to be.
Well,
because if we don't grow the Freedom Caucus and we just have 2 or 3, we're not going to get anywhere.
No, you're 100% right. In fact, I'll go ahead and say publicly that any candidate moving forward that isn't willing to at least line with the Freedom Caucus, I'm not even interested in. I mean, we must create a voting block in the legislature that will stop some of this stuff and force this machine to stop and sit down and make the right compromises so that we can stop these things. That is a number one priority moving into 2026. And I believe that if we get the GOP on board with that, right, we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone, and we're going to have to really back a lot of the Freedom Caucus candidates that we can create that, because we're just banging our heads up against the wall if we allow this stuff to continue the way it is. So I'm in agreement.
Exactly. But sometimes when I was running, I was going to join the Freedom Caucus if I won, and everybody was all excited. But they said, don't run as a going to be a member of the Freedom Caucus because it'll actually hurt you.
You're right.
But I told Mallory, I said, I don't care. I says, I want people to know that if I win, I'm going to be part of the Freedom Caucus, and I'm not going to do what's wrong. I will do what's right, and I will work as hard as I can. Sure. So, but some people will not stand up because they're afraid to. They're afraid that they're going to not get what they're supposed to get. But I'm telling you, if you're a true grassroots America First person, then you don't care about what the other person thinks. You just care about what's in your heart and what's right.
That's right.
And we don't have a lot of those people. And common sense, what's that? People don't even know how to analyze anything anymore. They don't know what's what. They just vote however they're told to vote. And that has got to stop.
You're right. And I think, too, part of the grassroots, because I know we don't have all the answers. But here's the thing is we're playing this game, and you're right. A lot, the Freedom Caucus gets a bad rap, and a lot of people don't want it. They don't want that accountability. They don't want the game to change, and especially if they're already involved in the game, well, they don't want it to come out. But the thing is if we continue to educate people about what the Freedom Caucus is and how it works, and we continue to educate just how bad these bills are, I think that's our winning spirit. We don't have to do the business as usual. We can actually bring some sort of clout behind that Freedom Caucus where it becomes like a badge of honor You know, I have seen him do
Absolutely.
amazing things. And that's, again,
Mhm.
if I want people to know, I'm going to be looking at every candidate moving forward. And if they're not part of the Freedom Caucus or aligned with the Freedom Caucus or even on that level, I'm not interested in these people, and that's what it's going to take is for us to take that kind of a stand and well, Brian Kemp can threaten somebody's job over tort reform. Well, I'm going to threaten my vote, regardless of if it's red or not, over the fact of how are you going to be when you get into this legislature. So,
Exactly. Exactly. We need to hold them accountable. And here's the thing, that accountability rule, I think it's wonderful.
mhm.
I think that if they vote like a rhino, say like my rep at 34, not sure what the score is out right now, but if he votes like a Democrat, he should run as an independent. If we started enforcing that rule,
Right.
then we might get people that are actually going to sign on to the values of the Republican Party
Right.
and not just switch over when they get money in their pocket. Because,
Yeah.
most people that go down to the Capitol, they change. They get power, they get money, they go, oh, wow, I can do this. I don't have to listen to my constituents
Sure.
anymore because I'm getting all this money. But I'm sorry, the people that put you in there are the ones that you should serve and be
Hmm.
accountable to,
That's right.
not the people that give you the money.
Yep. And another thing too, we're never going to get 100% of what we want out of any candidate. But it's funny to
No.
me watching how some of these bills unfold because you'll ask questions about a bill. You'll talk to your representative about a bill and what your concerns are. And there's not a whole lot of chatter there. But then once the bill passes, then all of a sudden you get a flood of what looks like whatever corporation put on this slideshow telling you why this is so good, but they don't really want to explain that to you ahead of time. That kind of stuff has to stop because people are becoming more awoke to how this process works. Right? It's taken me 2 years, and I barely know how a legislative session runs, but I know enough and how we've seen these 11th hour bill changes that if the
Hmm.
grassroots hadn't have been there, perhaps that would have went right through and nobody would have known about it. So it's a wake up call that
Yeah.
we're not going to take this anymore. So
Yeah,
so
like Mallory and the Blake on the Freedom Caucus, when it's in session, they just throw texts and emails
yes,
and Facebook posts, stop this, stop this, stop this. And we have worked together with them, a lot of grassroots people, and we have stopped a lot of bills from
yes,
coming because maybe the reps, when you keep calling and calling and calling, maybe they actually will pay attention. Hey, if I don't do what my constituents want, I might be primaried and I might actually lose.
exactly.
So the Freedom Caucus has been a big part of getting some of these bills stopped.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I want to also ask you, what are your thoughts about election security, integrity, whatever you want to call it? So I know you've worked in that.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump. Biden was installed like a toilet. So
Yeah.
we got to suffer his wrath.
Yeah.
So we need election integrity. We need paper ballots, 1 day voting, hand counted, ID. So these illegals don't vote, which they say that Ratburger says they don't, but they actually do. So, I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
And so we've got to do that. It's Trump's. We put
It's the
Trump in there to
executive
get all
order.
this good stuff. He wants paper ballots, 1 day voting, hand counted, and no illegal voting,
Right.
no whatever. So why can't Brian Kemp, Ratburger, Carr, Burns, whoever is down there that doesn't care about Trump? We need to put this into place in Georgia because
Right.
these machines are stealing our election. And I'm telling you, if we don't get rid of these machines in 2026 and it looks like our guy's going to win, they'll flip it at the end just to
Well,
make sure he doesn't win.
no doubt.
So and also at the convention, I understand McCoon is wanting a standing vote. I don't know. I'm hearing that. I hope it's not true. And in the past, we did have a standing vote, but I think now a standing vote is more intimidation than anything. Back then, it really wasn't because people didn't think that way. But it's gotten so evil now that if you do a standing vote, they take pictures of you and they will ruin your life. They
Mhm.
don't
That's
care
what I'm
anymore.
hearing. It's very contentious right
So
now.
it is, and so we need paper ballots hand counted with cameras on them,
Right.
because you can cheat with paper ballots too, but it's going to be a little harder if you have people standing there with cameras watching it. So
Well,
the first thing we need to do is make sure we don't have a standing vote for chair, because people aren't going to stand for David Cross because Josh's people are going to intimidate him, and that is just not right.
there's certainly a lot of chatter around that, and I think my position is pretty simple because I have no problem with standing votes. I understand the argument for the delegates and standing votes, and that's the way it's normally done. However, what we've been able to accomplish this year alone, in conjunction with Trump's executive order, right, in conjunction with
Hmm.
all of the grassroots movements that we've had on election security in the state, it would be a no-brainer to, as a show of force, that hey, the Georgia GOP can use paper ballots, and we're making a stand. We're loud and clear, and I believe above all else that is the main reason why we should do it in the first place. I know we had 3 different districts that were able to carry it out. I am certainly going to do whatever I can do to motion paper ballots in, because of the message that we're going to send to everybody else. Like, hey, we got this, Georgia. We can do it. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, you're
Yeah,
you're right. That's certainly something that's been talked about. This kind of intimidation vote. So we can't ignore that. People are talking about it. But I know
exactly.
there was an argument about the clickers, right? They use the clickers, and what I was told was they use it, and because people were saying, well, nobody wants the clickers. Well, I've been challenged, and people have said, well, standing vote, we need to see who you're voting for. Well, I don't think some of these people had
No.
the same problem using clickers, because guess what? It was also a private vote on clickers the 3 times they use it. So it's kind of like there is no argument here. We should just man up, just use paper ballots and show the world that we can do it. But that's just my thoughts on it.
we have we have at other conventions, and they're saying, oh, it'll take too long. It
Right.
didn't take that long.
No.
If you got organized and you just fly right through it,
Right.
it doesn't take long. They're just
Sure.
trying to intimidate us into doing it. I mean, like, I'm part of the seventh now. I used to be part of the ninth. Thank you, Shelley Eccles. Anyway, but we had paper ballots for the chair and all the vice chairs. And then after that, we had standing votes, or, whatever. So it, it has to be the chair and the vices actually should be paper ballot. The down ballot races, you can have standing vote, but the higher offices should always be paper ballots.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm hoping we're hopeful. I mean, I know we have the GRA convention coming up this coming Saturday.
Yes.
I know that
Woo!
they're going to entertain that motion as well. I can't wait. That's going to be a big one. So, so why don't you tell our viewers what do you have coming up
The cage
next?
match.
Huh?
The cage match.
Oh yeah.
The cage match is going to be fun,
Oh, I can imagine.
because
Yeah,
everybody's showing up, I understand.
there's
And
going to be a big room of
that
people.
that vetting report is getting a lot of,
Hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
people are really not happy with it, but it is what it is.
Right.
Um, I've
Well,
got a lot of stuff coming up, Gwinnett and um, Rome, and just all over. I did not think that um, it would be this contentious, or actually, we're at war. I mean, it is a war. It's the establishment versus the grassroots, and the establishment is mean and ugly. I mean, I'm talking really ugly. This last thing that Sally Grubbs put out attacking Sophia, um, was awful. Sophia's not even in the race. She should not even be on Debbie Dooley's hit list.
mm,
But I know why
yeah.
she did that, is to attack David Cross because he's friends with
Right.
Sophia. But that was uncalled for. That is just beyond. There's a special place in hell for her.
Yeah, when you say we're at war, I'm really starting to believe it, because this is went from just a get educated, vote your conscience thing to almost sort of I don't know, threatening, and a lot of dirt
Mhm.
out there. And yeah, and again, Sophia Farouk, I've worked with her in the past. I was a little bit taken aback when all that came out. I read the reports. I understand that we have issues, between religions. And perhaps if I didn't know Sophia personally and worked with her, I might be somebody who would believe that she, the thing about it is you can't see something like that where everybody's just fine and dandy with somebody like Sophia Farouk, right? And she
Exactly.
can be in this position and that, but the minute she decides to run for chair, all of a sudden we character assassinate her. This kind of stuff does not work, and I see it over and over and over again, and that's part of getting
Absolutely.
educated. So
Education is a big thing.
I agree.
I mean, it is. If we don't educate people on candidates and everything, what's the use?
Right.
Because they're just going to go vote for a name they recognize. I mean, and that's what they do. Oh, I like this name. Oh, this person ran before. Okay, I'll just vote for them.
Right.
And you get what you vote for. If you
Well,
vote for rhinos, you're going to get rhinos.
sure. And another thing too, no matter who wins, I don't endorse any candidates on the show. It's just something I don't do
Yeah,
because I keep it open. But here's the thing: no matter
absolutely.
no matter who wins in this race, they have to at least understand now that people are paying attention to every aspect of what is going on. People that didn't know what an FEC report was a month ago
They
now
do.
are combing through these things. So it doesn't
Exactly.
matter. I mean, of course, it matters in the grand scheme of things, but whoever wins this position, everything they do from here on out is going to be scrutinized. And the ones that are
Oh, yeah.
trying to get in, that are telling people what they're going to do, guess what? They're going to be held to that standard moving forward. So, I mean, I throw a
Yep.
bit of caution out there. The future is not going to be the same because we are here and we're watching. So,
No, no, no.
yeah,
They will if we win, and I'm talking about all the good grassroots people, not the Democrats and not the establishment. They will hold us accountable worse than they've ever held anybody accountable ever.
that's
I
right.
mean, we will be scrutinized the way we walk, the way we talk, when we go out to eat, how we pay for it. I mean, we will have spy glasses on us
That's right.
everywhere.
You will.
So,
I
but
Are you ready for
hopefully
that?
we're going to be right. Heck yeah, bring it on. I don't care.
That's
I'm not
right.
going to do anything wrong.
Right.
So, I'm just, but that's just the way it's going to be. I
Hmm.
mean, my opponent, and I'm going to put this out there because she is just evil. But anyway, when I say that we need to primary Republicans because they're rhinos, she turns around and she points her finger in my face. We don't primary Republicans. And I say, yes, we do if they're rhinos. And she did it again. And I'm like, you better quit that.
Hmm.
Um, so that's just awful that that's the way
Well,
somebody running against me is treating another person. I would never presume to do that. If I have a problem with somebody, I will go talk to them myself
well,
if I can.
it's
But
funny.
you don't put your fingers in somebody's face.
Sure.
Ugh.
Well, it's funny that people say that we don't primary Republicans. My state senator is Colton Moore, and he's been primaried just on every. I mean, they literally were. There was rumors that there was a lot of money being put up just to primary. I mean, they couldn't
Mhm.
find anybody, so they just found somebody
Mhm.
who was willing to do it. Had
Mhm.
zero chance whatsoever. I mean,
Yep.
we know that this happens all over the place. So
Just to do it.
but oh, if a grassroots says something like that, or you
Yeah.
say something about somebody that was not the popular opinion, But this is what accountability looks like, right? And the good, the bad, the ugly, we got to keep going.
Mhm.
So, all right. So,
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to
I
say,
said Jesus held us accountable,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Jesus holds
He
us
holds me
accountable,
accountable
but we
every
can't
single
hold our
day.
Republicans accountable.
Yeah,
So what's wrong with this picture?
exactly. So anyway, we're going to wrap this up here in a few. I want you to have
Okay.
time to anything that you want to mention about the job. Second, you mentioned you had a plan in place. Anything you want to bring up to let the people know what you're all about running for this?
Well, I'm all about getting the right people in office.
Okay.
Um, because if we don't, we're not going to have a state. We're going to lose the majority. We're going to have a Democrat governor. we're just gonna, and people are gonna probably move out of the state because they want a red state, not a blue state. And so that's what I'm all about, is getting right people in, winning 2026 for the right person. So we've got to get our feet to the ground, our ears to the phone. In 2026, everybody has to be on board
That's right.
to make sure we get the good candidates elected.
Right.
We're not going to hold our nose and go to the polls anymore. People are tired of doing that, because people have done that. And now that we can't vote for libertarian, then that takes another thing away from us, because people, if they didn't like either one, they would vote for the libertarian. So now we can't do that. So it's going to be all feet to the ground
right.
in 2026. It actually should start now, once we actually know who the candidates are.
That's right.
And I've done everything, so I would be glad to help train anybody to canvas, to phone bank. It's not hard. It is intimidating when you go up to the door and somebody's not really on your side, but that's when I enjoy it the most, because if you can get them to listen, maybe you can turn people around and actually get people to go to the polls again.
Right.
So that's important. And like you said, training is really, really important. And we've got to have classes and just get people excited to go out and poll, get excited to go out and canvas.
That's right.
To talk to these people. And actually, maybe we should start paying them.
Maybe so.
Democrats do.
You got to remember, one of these days, we're not going to have Donald Trump to fall back on with all this enthusiasm and excitement, right? We're going to have to keep this torch alive with people who have enough spine and backbone and enough integrity to keep it moving forward. So, okay. Well, where can people find
Donald
you?
Trump is not going to be on the ballot.
That's right. Oh, tell people where they can find you.
Well, you can go to my website, NorineForGeorgia.com. I do have X. It's Norine Cantor, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't use it a whole lot. I don't use social media a lot. I probably should. And then I have a Facebook page too.
Okay.
But on my website, or my email is nhcantor58@gmail.com is probably the best way, or my phone number, 678-780-6402. I'll be glad to talk to anybody and answer any and all questions. Okay. I got nothing to hide.
All right. That sounds good. Now, I always give my guests the last word, so you tell the people why they should vote for you.
Okay. Why you should vote for me. I'm not signing that stupid, crazy communist NDA. So I need help getting the word out, because I don't have the delegate list, and I won't have the delegate list. So if you feel inclined to help me, just text me, call me, whatever you want to do, and help me get my name out there, which people are already doing. They're already pulling together and helping us, which is great. So thank you if you're part of that. So I just want to say that we really need to change the Georgia GOP. If we don't, it's going to be a rough year, and it's going to be a hard 2026. And there's going to be problems. I mean, right now, Josh should resign with all this stuff we're finding out about him. And I know there are things being said that if he wins, he's going to step down and run for Secretary of State, and then he's going to appoint Sally Grubbs. So when you think about it, if you're voting for Sally Grubbs for first chair, you might actually be voting her for chairman. So you have to keep that in consideration. And I don't know if she'd be any better than Josh. I do not know. I've known her for a while, but I'm not liking the way she's turning. So just vote for David Cross, Lisa Pierce, of course me, and Lori. And, the other ones you can decide. Oh, Cindy Ella is really good too. So I'm really making endorsement for a lot of people. You're not, but I am, because I've got to know these people, and they are very nice, good people. And they all want the same. They want the best for Georgia. And the best for Georgia is David Cross, not Josh McCoon and his minions.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate you coming onto the show and introducing yourself to everybody. And as I always say, people, you need to get educated. You need to vote your conscience. Mm-hmm. You need to figure out who you want to lead into the future and how we're going to get through 2026. And Norine, it's been a pleasure having you tonight.
Well, thank you, Roy. I appreciate you having me.
Yes.
Vote for Norine Cantor, second vice chair.
There you go. All right, folks. This will be our Wednesday night, and we will be at the GRA convention on Saturday. I'm sure it will be filmed. And then we'll just keep going. I know there's a bunch of debates and forums coming up in this month, and there's all kinds of grenades being thrown everywhere. So we'll just keep popping the popcorn, and we'll see how this thing goes. So you just hang on the line, and we're going to sign off.
Sit back
here
and enjoy the show.
That's right. So we'll see you guys next week.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
He said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.